Hey, hello, welcome. So friend, in this video, we will learn lookups in OIC. So in this video, I will explain you what is lookup, why we will use lookup, when we will use, and how we can create lookups in OIC, how to use lookup, and everything, each and every point about lookups. So first, let me tell you about the lookups. What is lookup? So in OIC, lookup is used to store value, store data based on key. So suppose you created you have any scenarios. For example, the basic example we have that suppose you are getting data file from any third party application. Suppose you are getting data file from in server from the customer, right? In the data file they are using country code as IN, right, for India. But in your Oracle cloud you have to use India for that. So there can be difference. So what kind of logic you will apply? You cannot write if condition for each and every countries, right? So what we will use, we will store that value, the country code in that lookup, and based on that country code we will provide the value here. We will provide the actual value of that country code, and we will use the same in our integration. So suppose use in the data file we have country code as in, but we have to use India. So we will create a lookup where we will use these two columns and will provide the value India for IN, SL for Sri Lanka, AU for Australia, something like that. So but we have one more features in OIC when we are looking using lookup. So here if you will see, when we are talking about key value pairs, we have only one key and we have one values for that particular key. But in OIC, if you are going to use lookup, you can store multiple values based on a single key. So suppose there is requirement, you have to store the country code with the country actual country name and the country phone code and the country time zone and all. So you lookup can be useful here. So suppose there is one requirement, yeah, so we'll discuss further, right? And also when you create any lookup in OIC, that lookup can be used in all the integration created on the particular instance. So suppose in your instance there is 50 integrations and you have created two lookups. So both that two lookups can be used for all the 50 integrations. There is no any restrictions. So here this is the main PowerPoint of that lookup. So in this video what we will learn to create lookups, we will learn to delete, export, import, make a clone of that lookup, and we'll use the lookup in integrations, how we will use. So let's go and create one lookup so that I can explain you in a practical way. So before going to start, let me explain you some scenarios. So the actual use of lookup can be that the same I explain you, that we are receiving the country code from data file, but we have to use the country name instead of the code. So it's not possible for us, possible for a developer to make a if condition, make a switch in integration, that each and every time whenever we will receive a country code column, we will make a switch condition that if country code is in, then use country name India, if SL then use Sri Lanka. It's not possible, right? So for that we have lookup. We will create this value in a lookup and we will use lookup in integration, so that each and every time whenever we will get country code, we will pass this country code to the lookup and that lookup will return back the country name. This is the first scenario. There are other scenarios can be that based on the country code we have to store the different values. So based on the country code we have to store country name, country phone code, and the time zone. So lookup is going to provide you that kind of facilities. You can store multiple values based on a single key. So here our country code will be key and these all will be the value. And if we will talk about the real scenario in integration when you are working for a business, so what can be the real scenario? So suppose you have data file over server and you have created integration. So suppose here if you will see, I have created integration, three different integration. First integration for supplier, for second integration for invoices, and the third integration for general ledger. And suppose we have different directories, right? So each and every time whenever we need to use that data file directory or archival directory or like email notification for that particular integration, so there can be some scenarios that if our integration is going to create supplier, we have to use this directory, supplier data file directory. If our integration is going to create invoice, we have to use this much of that. This is the invoice data file directory. So how we can achieve that kind of things? Before lookup, we have to hard code all these things in integration only. But when we will use lookup. So what we will do inside the integration, we will pass this. We will pass this integration code. So suppose we have given the code as for creating supplier, given the code as 01, 02, and 3 for the invoices and journal. So we will pass this code to the lookup, and this lookup will return me all the details related to the particular integration. So suppose we have created integration. That integration is going to send email to user, for a successful case or any error case. So suppose in this case we have configured 2 emails in success case, and we have configured 3 email in error case. And suppose while the integration is working on prod, and you have to add the email list in that success email or email error case of email. What you need to do? What you will do? You will deactivate the integration, then you will edit the integration. In that mapping, you will add the email. But when you use lookup, there is no need to do anything. Just you will need to edit the lookup, and you have to update the value in the lookup only, and the same value will be reflected in integration when we will use lookup in the integration. So this is the main scenarios where we are using this lookup. So let's move to the practical part, and let me show you how to create lookups. So first we will create a lookup for this one, right? So suppose we will create one integration, in which integration we will pass in as a request payload, the country code, and it will return back the country name as a response. So let's move to the integration part. So here we will create one schedule integration. So no, for here, if you will see what I told you, I have to get a request payload while running the integration. It means that we have to create integration as a app driven, right? So before going to create integration, let me create lookup. So how you can create the lookup? You have to navigate to the integration. Inside that integration, we have lookups. So once you will click here in the lookups, you will get option to create. Just click on this create. Once you will click on the create, it will ask you to give the name to the lookup. So what kind of name you are going to provide? So I am going to create a lookup for storing the country details, right? So I will give the name XX COUNTY country LKP. I will give the sort name as LKP. It means that lookup. You can use whatever naming convention you are following, right? So I will just click on this create. So here, if you will see, by default we are getting 2 columns, right? You can change the name of the column. So right now we can see the column name is domain underscore name one, but I want to change. What I want to change, I want to make it as a country code and country name, right? So I will copy this country code, and here click on this drop down and just click on edit domain and just change the name. And here also I will change the name same. So copy, and yeah, here. So done. So we have given the name. So here we will input the data, and the same data we will use in integration. So let me input these details. INSL AU AE and PK, and the value we have to provide. So for adding the value in the lookup, you can click on this icon. It will give you the option to add the row. And how we can add the column, I will show you the same. So for adding any columns, right now suppose we have country code and we have the value based on the country code, country name. And suppose as per our requirement, we have to add this phone code and the time zone also. So what we will do, we will just click here, and the one line it will be added. So again, same what we will do, we will click here and make as phone code. That's it, and you have to give the value. So right now for this testing purpose, we will use only these two. In next integration, we will use multiple values, right? So just now we have to click on save and done. Go to back, and here our lookup is configured. It means that it's ready to use. So just go to the integration and create one integration. So I am going to create one app driven integration so that I can get a request from the user and return back the response to the user. So I will use XX country lookup 01, just click or create. So here if you will see, when we are going to create any app driven integration, we are not going to get any endpoint by default. We have to add the endpoint. So what I told you, I have to take a value from user as a request body. It means that we need to add an endpoint that can be helpful to get a value from user while running, so that we have REST endpoint that is going to help to do the same. So here you can see this, all the endpoint which is showing here, it is the trigger type, right? Trigger, it means that it will just only take the values, return back the values and all. So here I have created one connection, xx REST connection trigger. So I will use this connection here and I will give the name. So this connection is going to start the integration, right? So I will give the name as a start, and this endpoint is of REST type. So I will select right REST. You can use whatever you want. So here you have to provide the relative URL. So I will just give the name country, and here, so this integration is going to get the value from user and return back the response as a response. So I will select post. So post is post. Whenever we create any integration as a post, it means that this we can configure request and response payload. We can skip also, but right now we have to configure the request payload so that user can give the value, and we have to configure response payload so that we can return back the value. Click on next. So here in the request part we have to provide the structure. So I will choose JSON structure, and here we have to create the structure. So I will create here. So let me create a request payload. So in request payload, what I will do, I will take a country code from user. Country code, and here user will provide the country code, and as a response what I will do, I will return back the country name. So this is the JSON structure I am creating, right? So you can use XML also. So I just prefer JSON, right? So first we have to provide the payload, request payload. So I will provide here, just click OK. And here you can see we selected as a JSON structure, so it's replaced by the JSON. So just go to next. And here as a response also we have configured response payload as a JSON. So I will just provide the structure. This is just for a structure purpose, right? You can put value here or you can escape, it doesn't matter, it will not work because we have to provide this value at runtime. Okay, and now next, done. So here you can see we have added the endpoint which will help us to get a data as a request payload from user while running the integration and return back the response with the help of this REST endpoint, return endpoint, right? So here this is the mapping value where we have to map the response. So what we will do right now, we will create one variable which that variable will store the value. So let me add the assign variable. So assign var. Here I will create one variable name var country name, and what value this variable is stored, this variable will store the value from the lookup. So I will edit here. So for getting use of the lookup, what you need to do is that you need to search here in the component, you have to search lookup. So once you will search lookup, you can get the lookup values. This is the function, right? So when you will expand this function, you will get, there are 4 parameters in the function, right? So let me drag this function here. So once you will use the lookup, it will open you the pop-up. So here you have to select the source column and the destination column. So here we have selected, this is our lookup. So in my integration there is only one lookup, that is xx country lookup LKP. That's why it's showing only one here. If there are multiple lookups in this instance, you can get list of lookup here, right? So just click on next. So now here you have to select the source column. So what I told you is that in integration, like when you create lookup, you can create a column as a key and the rest of the column will be considered as value. So right now what is our key column? Key column is the country code. So here I will select the source as a country code, and what will be destination? Our destination will be country name. So click here and select the country name. So here you can see it's showing something like that, country code and the country name. So click here next, and here in the lookup you can provide the default value. So suppose user have provided any others nz, so you suppose user provided nz, but we don't have any value in the lookup with nz. So in this case what you want to do, so you can provide the default value, right? So let me provide the default value something like that, ny a, it was not available, something like that. So click next and done. So here you can see, okay, and here if you will see here, it's showing that this is our, here you can see this is our lookup name.dvm, and this is the country code, this is the source value. Where in the source value we have to map what kind of code will be there for this country code, so that it can replace the code with the value, the country name. So here this source code, our source code will be from the request payload. So here you can see the in execute in request wrapper we have country code, the country code we map in the request payload, this one country code, right? So we will change this source value to the lookup this country code, right? So here you can see this is our country code, this is the column of the lookup, this is the value, this is the country code value which we are getting from the user while running as a request payload, and this is the column, which column will be replaced by this value, and this is an a, this is saying this is the last value, this is the default value. If whatever value user have provided in the request payload, if not available in the lookup, then it will print the na, or it will return back the na, right? So just click validate. So here somewhere we have done any error, so let me check what's the error. Okay, so here you can see, okay, let me check validate. So here we are getting error because of this one. So here if you will see, there were two single quotes, right? So we have to remove this single quotes and make a single quotes, just validate. So now you can say it's validated. So here if you will see the in the expression summary, here this is our lookup name. So from this lookup, what it will do, from this lookup it will check the country code with this value, and it will return back the country name. If this country code will not available in this, in the column of the lookup, it will return back nya. So just validate, done, close. So our lookup is mapped. So in the variable, what will happen when whatever value user will provide in the endpoint as a request, the same we will use with the help of lookup, we use that the value, and then this value we have to map as a response. So here this is the response mapper, just click here, and here if you will see in the response you will get the country name. So here in the response wrapper we have country name column, the country name. So we have to map this country name with our variable. So this is our variable which will store the lookup values. So just validate and close. And here we have one error because of we have to enable the tracing variable. It's mandatory to have a tracing variable for each and every integration. So you can provide any tracing variable based on your requirement or anything. So just save, now done. So our integration is ready to use. So now we have to activate this integration. So now integration is going to activate, and now we have to run this integration. So let me run the integration. So while running the integration, we have configured the value request payload. So this is the request payload. You can see once you will click on the body. So in this request payload, we have to provide the value. So suppose we are going to provide AU, right? So if we will provide the AU, it will return back the value as Australia. So click on test. Here you can see it's returning back the name as country name Australia. And suppose if I provide IN, it will return back the value as India, you can see. And here you can see that in lookup we have default value, right? So suppose if we provided wrong value, so suppose ZM, we provided ZM. So we don't have value with the ZM, right? So it's returning NYA, right? So this is the main features of lookup, right? If right now we don't have value, right, for ZM. So let me add the value for ZM in the integration, right? So let me open the integration, move to the integration, lookup, and here edit the lookup, right? So let me add one more value here. So ZM, right? Instead in the ZM Zimbabwe, right? Just save, done. So right now if we run the integration, I will pass ZM, it will return back the Zimbabwe, right? So done, and yeah, click on test. So here you can see it's returning back our value as Zimbabwe. This is the main features of lookup. We don't need to edit the integration, we don't need to do any changes in the integration, just we have to add the value, edit the lookup only. So now we learn how to create lookup, how to use lookup in OIC or integration. Now it's time to delete any lookup or export and import and or create a clone of that lookup, right? So I will create a separate video where I will explain you how we can use that kind of lookup, right? Multiple column values. So if you find this video interesting, please comment below. We'll try to complete that video as soon as possible. So here if you will see, so this is our lookup, right? So if you want to create a clone of the lookup, clone means that creating a copy of that lookup, right? So what you need to do is that you need to just click here and just click on the clone. It will ask the name. So suppose I provided the name as lookup2, lkp2. So just click on clone. So what will we do? It will just make a clone of the integration. So if you will edit this integration, you will get the same value. So this is the way where you can create the make a clone of any integration, right? Now suppose if we want to delete any integration, delete any lookup, so how we will delete? If you want to delete any lookup, just click here and you can delete here. You can see the lookup is deleted, right? And the next point is that suppose we have to export the lookup, right? So how you can export? It's very simple. Just you have to click here and click on the export to CSV. The lookup value, whatever value in the lookup will be saved as CSV file. Here you can see it's exported as a CSV. If you will see here, we have the DVM, this is the lookup name, and this is the country, this is our column, and this is the source column, this is the destination. If you will see in the lookup, here we have, this is the lookup name as a DVM, and here we have country code, the first column country code, second column country name, and these are the value. So this is the way how we can export any lookup. So suppose if we want to import the lookup, right? So we have created this lookup, right, already, and want to import a lookup. So how import lookup? It means that import the lookup with some extra values. So suppose this is our lookup value, right, and we have to add some more values in the lookup. So suppose we have to add values some any country. If you what country we can use. Suppose we use Ireland, and suppose we use WI, West Indies, SA, South Africa, suppose, and we have to upload this lookup, right? So what we will do, first we need to save this as a CSV. So what I will do, I will save this on document as a CSV, right? I will save on document. I will give the name as XX country LKP, and it will save as CSV. Done. So what we need to do is that we need to upload this lookup or import the lookup. So how we will import? Just you have to click on this import icon, choose the file whatever we created. So here we created this one, open and import. So once you will import, it will ask that the value if some values we have uploaded earlier, right, and we have to do some changes or we added. So want to replace? Yes, of course, import and replace. So here you can see that imported successfully, and now if you will see right now we have 9 values. If you will edit, all the value is added successfully here. SA South Africa, WE West Indies. Now it's time to save and done. So this is the basic of lookup, how we can create lookup, import, export, make a clone, everything. If you will see here in this integration, if you will pass SA, it will return back the value as a South Africa. Here you can see that. So it's changing the value runtime. We don't need to even update the integration. So this is the main features of lookup. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and please share it with your friend. Thank you so much.